once again, a very, very warm welcome to all of our attendees this morning. We appreciate you taking the time out on these Tuesday mornings to have these Toolbox talks. Now, I want to start by asking a question. Are you tired of hearing about COVID-19? Are you tired about the COVID vaccine, what to do, what not to do? Those who are adamant on getting it, those who are adamant on not getting it, those who are not too sure whether to get it or not. And if you fall into any of those categories, we obviously feel you, we understand. COVID-19 is here at the moment. Even the slide that you are looking at the moment are the tips to continually prevent COVID-19 that you've seen throughout the months during this pandemic. In fact, throughout the years, almost 2 years now that we've been having this, and you've been hearing it day in and day out. And we're sure that the frustration levels are there with many of you deciding whether to make it mandatory or not, whether you are working for a company who is deciding to make it mandatory or not. Hearing conflicting ideas out there on if it's not mandatory and we have a constitutional right, then why can you not travel without having it? Why can you not do certain things without having it? Well, all of these are just hearsay. We're not too sure on what is actually going to happen, what the government really is going to do. What we do know is there are very good benefits to the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, for those of you who might not have gone for it, those of you who are perhaps against it, we have been chatting to you during the course of the weeks, and we appreciate your stand. We're not going to tell you to do anything that is against your own opinion. Constitutionally, you have a right to decide. For those of you who have already gone and have told us a little bit about your side effects that you've experienced, and during the course of this whole Safe Timber initiative from IOPSA, in looking at COVID-19 vaccines and why the consolidated directives told us to do what we needed to do, what the vaccines were, what the side effects were. Today, we are going to be looking at the benefits. And if you haven't made a decision yet on whether to take it or not, don't fret. There is still time. Obviously, it's not something that you need to rush to do. It is something that you are personally going to make a decision on. And everyone should respect your personal decision. And what we want to say is we really do that as well. Remember, safety doesn't happen by accident. And that was our safety thought last week. Today, we want to just mention that if you do a little each day, you can eventually create a safety culture. So when it comes to the vaccine, when it comes to COVID-19, we've done our part. We've worn our masks, we've washed our hands, we've used sanitizer. We've exposed our bodies to enough sanitizer to last us a lifetime or a few lifetimes. Every time we go somewhere, we are putting things on our hands that we don't even know sometimes what shopping centers or businesses are allowing us to put onto our hands, but we take it because that's what they require us to do before entering their premises. Obviously, though, there are certain opinions. In fact, there are 8 billion opinions because each one of us have our own opinion, our own thought, and our own way that we want to go about the vaccination. But last week we had a question, and we want to handle that first before we go into what the benefits are that we've experienced ourselves personally, as well as what we found on the CDC and WHO website. Now, the first question, actually the only question that we had last week, was does the first and second vaccine have the same ingredients? Well, we scoured the internet and we've got the actual website if you'd like it. It's quite a long website address rather, so I couldn't really put it on here because it's kind of pointless. You're not going to be able to click on the screen and go there. But if you do want the information, I can either email that through to you. I can send you a WhatsApp or even an SMS with that link. And you can go and take a look at all the ingredients that are in each one of these various vaccines. Now, obviously, they're only going to give one for Pfizer, Moderna, and the Janssen vaccine. Janssen is the only one where you take one shot. The other two, Pfizer and Moderna, are the ones where you take 2 shots of the vaccine. Now, on the CDC website, there is a list of these ingredients. There are no indications of any second shot ingredients. They only give the ingredients for the actual vaccine. So they don't tell you whether the first shot has this amount in the vaccine and then the second shot has the second amount. From what we do know, it seems as though the strengths differ and thus the need for taking 2 of the one type of vaccine instead of just taking one shot of the Janssen vaccine. And that seems to be the only difference. The ingredients, though, seem to be very, very similar. The active ingredients are really what count. Some of them will have some sort of different minor ingredient to it, but really the overall consensus is that it seems to be doing the exact same thing. And so the first and second injection with Pfizer, from what we can understand so far, is exactly the same, just in different doses or different strengths compared to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So we hope that assists you. Please remember to get the accurate information. And what we did this past week when we were actually looking for the answer to this question is we typed in ingredients to the vaccine. And there's a lot of websites that actually come up. I was quite surprised at how many blog sites come up, how many newspaper articles come up, a lot from American sources, obviously. Being Google or being Bing, you're obviously going to be getting a lot of hits on that country, more specifically, not much here in South Africa. But what I did notice is there's a lot of opinions out there that might be construed as legitimate. It might look and seem that they are an authority on the vaccine, on COVID-19, or even on scientific research. And so it was very difficult for me to actually get a hold of the website that I found, being the CDC website. And the reason is I didn't want to go to a site that didn't have anything to do with the vaccine to start with. I wanted to go to the source. So I went to Pfizer's website, which is a German company. I did research on Pfizer themselves. That is the actual vaccine that I had myself personally. And so I wanted to know a little bit more about that. I looked at the Johnson & Johnson one and I did some research on the Moderna, but really I went to the CDC website, and that is where I found the most accurate information and the most consistent information. So if you are looking for information out there, please be sure that you are getting it from the right source. Now, a question that one of the plumbers gave me a call actually last week, just before the public holiday, was Thursday afternoon. And he mentioned that we've been speaking about this for months and months and months since the vaccine's been released. Now we're having a whole month on it. Why are we actually talking about the COVID-19 vaccine virus again so much, especially now even during Toolbox talks? Well, the reason why we are discussing it is because of the consolidated directives that was released. Now, these health and safety measures that need to be put in place for every workplace. In particular, Section 4, subsection 1G, point number 1, stated that employers must provide workers with information that raises awareness in any form or manner of the dangers of the COVID-19 virus, the manner of transmission, so how it spreads from one person to the next, measures to prevent the transmission, like the tips that we have, the slide that we have in the beginning of this Toolbox talk, then the nature of the vaccines that we use in our country, those being the Pfizer, the Moderna, and the Janssen vaccines, as well as the benefits associated with these vaccines. Then you needed to know the contraindications for vaccines, the nature and risk of any serious side effects, such as allergic reactions. Now, this is a directive from the government stating that all companies must make their employees known to this information. They must bring this information to them. They must make them understand this information. So it's a legal requirement for employers to do this. And so we thought at IOPSA is to design it for you, get the information for you, and then put it into a little pack. Now, obviously, you're going to have these 4 recordings. So you've got 4 Toolbox Talk recordings that you can play for your staff. If you want, I can even send you the actual PowerPoint presentation, the one that you're seeing in front of you at the moment with the information. And then we've also put together a little pack. It's a 4-page document, basically telling you what the virus is, what are the side effects, what are the benefits, and then how to go about registering if you do want to get the virus. If you do want to get the vaccine, rather. We don't want you to get the virus. And that information then is a legal requirement that we are already fulfilling for you. Now, if you're a member of our IOPSA, you know how to get in touch with us. safety@iopsa.org. If you're not a member, we also want to make this available to you, because the reason that IOPSA is really doing this is to show anybody, not just our members or the industry in plumbing, but any person, that we do really care about life, we care about safety, we care about health, and we want to do our part in assisting where we can. So that is the reason why we are discussing this. And we hope if you did have this question and you didn't raise it, that it does answer that question for you. So what really do you need to do? What steps do you take? Where can you go about getting the vaccine? And how should you actually do it? Well, if you are able to and you are eligible, if you are above the age of 18, you are currently eligible to enroll and register for the vaccine. You'll see there is the HTTP address over there, vaccine.enroll.health.gov.za. As soon as you click on there, there are 5 steps that you need to do. First of all, you need to have access to the internet, and you can use a cell phone, laptop, tablet, or desktop. You will need your ID or passport number if you're a non-South African resident, as well as general contact information, such as your cell phone number, which will be used as the primary mode of communication. They're generally going to send you an SMS once you've done your registration, as well as after you've gone and gotten your vaccination. They are going to then send you a little ID number with the actual vaccine that you've received. Then you also need information on your employment, your primary employer, where you are located and the type of work that you're doing, and then where relevant, your professional registration details, such as medical aid might also be required. And with all the information at hand, registration should take approximately 2 to 3 minutes. So 2 to 3 minutes is as long as it's going to take you to actually register for the vaccination. Then you'll be sent information on where to go and do it. You'll also be able to choose if there is a location specific to your area. So if there's a vaccination site that has been rolled out from the government and it's close to where you are, you might be able to choose out of those various sites which one you would prefer to go to. Now, I know myself personally because I am with Discovery Health. I registered through Discovery Health, but they wanted me to go outside of Hartbeespoort Dam because they don't have a Virgin Active in my area. And so I needed to either drive all the way out to Pretoria, which is not very far, or out to Fourways area, which again is not very far. But then I found out that the Clicks, which is just down the road from us, was also setting up their own site. And what I could do is register on their portal and then just inform Discovery that I would be going there to that site to get it. Obviously, I needed to get my vaccination record card. I needed to keep all my information. I needed to get my SMSs and then submit it through to Discovery Health to show them that I'd actually done this. But really, the portal is all the same. So if you need to register, that is the actual registration address there. Now, let's get into why we are discussing today's topic of what are the benefits of getting it. Now, I mentioned to you last week that I had my second vaccination on Monday, the day just before our last Toolbox talk, and I hadn't had any side effects. Well, I did actually have side effects on Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning. I'd been playing golf the next day, and for some reason, I had an over-enlarged or swollen gland under my left arm at the site of where I'd actually had the vaccine, and it swelled up quite a bit. It's almost the size of a tennis ball. And it wasn't very sore, just very tender. It felt very bruised. And it lasted like that right up until the weekend. So when Friday came on Friday, that's only when it started going away. Obviously, I didn't have any headaches. I wasn't feeling tired or lethargic. It didn't really affect my mobility at all. That was the only part that had a bit of a side effect. Just obviously phoned my local doctor here in Harties. They expressed that it is a typical side effect. I obviously did research on it as well, just to ensure that everything was fine. And after that, everything is fine. And currently today, I am still okay. So there are side effects. I've experienced it myself. My wife's gone through it as well. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law. So my obviously close friends, they've gone for the vaccine, and I've seen a few side effects in them, but they were not severe. The benefits, though, is that it protects us from severe illness and death from the COVID-19 virus by helping our body to develop an immunity. Now, they may also help to reduce the spread of the virus between people. So one person's choice to get vaccinated could save many more lives. And that's really what we are trying to achieve, this herd immunity, where if one person gets vaccinated, is fully vaccinated, remember it's 2 weeks after you've gotten your last vaccination shot, then it's a very high probability that you don't pass it on because you are not going to get it as seriously. Now, COVID-19 vaccines are a key tool in ending the pandemic and getting societies back to normal. Mass vaccination campaigns should also help reduce the pressure on health workers in hospitals, allowing them to attend to patients with other conditions. Last week, we spoke about those stats of almost a 2% death rate of having COVID virus to those who landed up in ICU and actually died. That is 2% of the world population. Currently, there are only 0.002% of those who have died after taking the COVID-19 vaccine. And after I did a little bit of research, I realized that the death rate there was any death. So if that person had the vaccination and died, they still recorded it as a death of a person who took the vaccination. So they might not have died specifically from the vaccination. It could have been a different disease, but they still noted it down. But that is 100 times better. Currently, there are no persons on a ventilator that we know of, or in ICU, who have taken the COVID vaccine, who have gotten COVID afterwards, but did not get it as seriously. So there is no one currently. Currently, there is 100% of those who did not take the vaccine who are sitting in hospital on the ventilator that did not take the vaccine. So those are also some benefits. You might get COVID again, but the possibility of passing it on is minimized. And the probability of getting it very seriously is also seriously mitigated there. So the World Health Organization recommends that we get the COVID-19 vaccine as soon as one is available to you. Now, obviously, all of you listening in are probably over the age of 18, which means every single one of you are already available. You can go and get the vaccination. Have you made your decision? Is it still a difficult one? Is it something you feel you just don't want to do? Well, if that's the case, your opinion matters, and we need to honor and respect your opinion. The two key reasons, though, that we want people to get vaccinated are to protect ourselves and protect those around us, because not everyone can be vaccinated, including very young babies or those who are seriously ill or have certain allergies. They depend on others being vaccinated to ensure that they are also safe from vaccine preventable diseases. So when a person gets vaccinated against the disease, their risk of infection is likely also reduced. So they are far less likely to spread the disease to others. As more people in the community get vaccinated, fewer people remain vulnerable, and there is less possibility for passing the germ on from person to person. Now, if you don't believe this, or if you feel it's an untruth, just take a look at your current stats at the moment. I realize that the government sent out a press release stating that the third wave has actually ended. And I know there's speculation on a fourth wave coming out now in December, purely because so many people are going to be going away. But it hasn't happened yet. We don't really know. We can't foretell the future, but what we can do is take a look at the current stats of where we are at the moment. Currently, there are not many more people getting COVID-19 as it was before, and thus the end of the third wave. Could that be because we are adhering to the safe protocols, that we are getting vaccinated, that we are doing our part to prevent, mitigate, and perhaps even taking the stand, whether we like it or not, to have a vaccination, to do it for others? Personally, and I think I've told you this before, it was not on the cards for me to get the vaccination. I'm just being honest. It's something I did not want to do. First of all, I just felt it was just too new. I didn't really feel like they could have a vaccination for COVID so quickly. I was also worried about how they were going to roll it out in such large numbers, to be able to create a vaccination so quickly, not just having the vaccination, but getting it to so many people. And obviously, because I'm a lot younger, I saw a lot more older ones getting it first because they were eligible first. And I heard the stories, I looked at the side effects, I did my own research. And the only reason why I eventually got it, the first shot, was because I thought of obviously my family and then my clients. Thinking about if my family needed my help and they were pro-vaccination and they asked me to come and assist them, and they had young kids, obviously my brothers and sisters-in-law that got young kids, would they want me there? Obviously, they love me, they want me there, but would they feel comfortable? Well, probably not, especially if they are vaccinated. They might feel uncomfortable. They wouldn't pressure me, obviously, but they wouldn't feel comfortable. And what would it take for me to actually have the vaccination? A shot, a mild side effect, and I'm fine? Well, that was more of a benefit to me. If my clients asked me to come out and do an audit, to implement an ISO system, to come and do a risk assessment, or to come and take a look at their health and safety file on site, if they had to ask me, are you vaccinated, because they're pro-vaccination, what would I say? Would my opinion make them feel uncomfortable just because I wasn't comfortable with the vaccination? Well, eventually I thought, let me do my research. Let me see what is out there in terms of how many people have COVID and have died, how many people have had the vaccination and have died. And that really came to the fore for me. So all this other information was vital after the fact, after I had my first injection. And yes, now I would encourage anybody to do it because I've gone through it myself and I've seen that I haven't had any serious side effects, nor the people around me that I personally know of. So really, that was the link in my decision. Now, if you are suffering perhaps with the same questions that I had, same issues that I had, well, there are others out there like you. And maybe do some more research. But for employers, coming back to the legal side, what the government requires you to do. Now, we cannot tell you you have to get the vaccination, but what government can tell you is to put in place a risk assessment and a plan to ensure that you are doing something about the vaccination. You need to determine the fairness of a mandatory vaccination policy as well as its implementation. Please remember fairness. If you are going to make it mandatory, you need to back it up by a proper risk assessment. Now, please understand, employees, it is a very difficult position that the government has put your employer in. Their responsibility is to protect others as well as their employees and any person that might be affected by the work that you perform. Which means if you are seeing a lot of clients quite often, you might fall into a high risk category of risk. And the risk assessment might point out that you need to get a vaccination. If you choose to refuse that, yes, there are reasonably practical points that your employer can put in place so that you can still work without getting vaccinated. But it might mean a change of work, because we don't want you actively involved with other people who are choosing to get vaccinated while you yourself are not choosing to get vaccinated. So it's got nothing to do with your constitution. It's got nothing to do with your opinion and how you are going to go about not taking the vaccination. What it's there to do is to help protect you, obviously. So we'll put a bubble around you at work, but we will not allow you to have too much interaction with other colleagues as well as other clients. Does not mean that you cannot perform your work. You will still be able to perform your work, but there might be limits placed upon you. Now, please understand that it is a difficult situation that your employer might be in. So let us cooperate. The best thing to do is to ensure that you do it as a team. Notice point number 3, these guidelines are not a substitute for collective agreements or agreed procedures. Not an employer telling us we have to do something an employer coming to us and talking to us as a team, employers, employees together. Get the SHE rep involved. If you've got a union, get the union involved. Have a collective agreement, have a collective discussion. Now, the key principle of these guidelines is that employers and employees should treat each other with mutual respect. That can be done. And if you need assistance with that, if you need a mediator, a third party, there are many health and safety professionals out there that are willing to come out and assist you with it. Yes, the various charges might apply. Some might be more expensive than others. But if you need the help is there. Now, subject to these agreements, your plan, your COVID-19 management plan, must state that the identified employees of your risk assessment, especially in high or medium risk categories, must be vaccinated when it becomes available. And if possible, can you arrange transport? I know that Uber was doing a bit of a discount from the vaccination sites. And so you would get a discount if you used Uber to and from the vaccination sites. Perhaps you can set it up in your own company and get a group of people going at the same time if that is a possibility for you. Now, if you suffer from any side effects, you are legally, in terms of your Basic Conditions of Employment Act, allowed to take paid sick leave, or perhaps you can come to some sort of collective agreement if you don't have any sick leave. This 100% depends on your company and the decision you come to as a company. If the employer refuses vaccination, then the employee, first of all, must be counseled, and if requested, allow the employee to seek guidance from the OHS rep or the union. Refer the employee for further medical evaluation should there be a medical contraindication for vaccinations. If necessary, take steps to accommodate the employee in a position that does not require the employee to be vaccinated. That might be difficult, but it can be done. Now, according to the consolidated directives, please ensure employers that you take into account the rights of the employees to bodily integrity according to the Constitution of South Africa. They do have an opinion on it. They do have a personal right to choose to do it or to choose to refuse to do it. But remember, don't refuse to do it without doing your research. In fact, if you are comfortable to do it, go ahead, get the vaccination, do your part, and let us try as a community to stick together on it.